Well, thanks so much, everybody, for joining us. I think this is going to be a really fun talk. We've got some experts with us here today who talk about chickens day in and day out. So we've got Kristen Warren and Matt DuBoise. Kristen has been a backyard chickens advocate and educator for over 10 years. She knows the amount of information on backyard chickens can be totally overwhelming. And so her philosophy is to keep it simple and to have the right setup so you can enjoy the hobby. And Matt DuBoise's expertise is in coop construction, pest, and predator protection. He owns Carolina Coops and has been featured on national TV, publications, documentaries, and podcasts. Matt and Kristen have been collaborating together for over 10 years and currently host a Video Chicken Live YouTube show and podcast every week. Ingrid Fromm, the producer of the show, will also be attending on the sidelines to assist with questions and chat. And so I'm going to monitor the chat throughout the presentation. Feel free to just type in there whenever you like, but we're going to hold those questions until after the presentation part for the most part. And then we'll open it up and I'll read through the chat, and folks participating are also invited later in the presentation to just unmute and ask their questions. All right, so with that, I'm going to turn it over to our experts. Take it away.
Okay, and Jen, if you hadn't already, if you could email Ingrid that link. I'm not sure if she got it.
I don't have her email address, so if one of you can type it in, then I will do so.
Okay. It is Ingrid at carolinacoops.com.
I got it.
Okay, thank you. Well, welcome everybody. We are, of course, here to talk about backyard chickens. This is something that we do every day, like Jen said. We live it, we love it.
Well, I don't know about love it. Maybe you still do.
We do. And this is a treat for us because we have a weekly show where we get into a lot of detail and we interview people, and we really don't get a chance very much to step back and start from the beginning.
I think you may have muted yourselves. Sorry, pardon our technical difficulty. There we go.
Uh-oh.
Oh my gosh, and that was, such
so
an
good.
Excellent intro. You think you can do it again?
Okay.
It's going to be
Thank
even.
You can hear us now, right?
Hear you.
Yes. Okay, good. We're all good?
Go for it.
Okay, all right. I was just saying that we do a weekly show where we get into a lot of details about so many different subjects. We don't have a chance to step back and kind of start from the beginning very often and do a real overview. Mm-hmm. So this is a real treat for us. And we haven't done it in a long time.
And what I was saying too, I can't thank you enough for the intro. I haven't ever heard an intro like that.
I read that.
That's
Jen helped it.
That was a great way to reflect on the past many years.
Yes, exactly. So not knowing where everybody sits from an experience background, if you're just interested, if you're curious, maybe you even have a neighbor that has chickens and you just want the nitty gritty. Maybe you don't like them, maybe you do like them. I don't know. So we're just going to do a quick overview. It's not really quick, but we're going to do an overview, but we're going to allow enough time for questions and see what you're really interested in. So we can go back and discuss more about any one of these topics. So just starting from the beginning, why would you want backyard chickens? We were very pleasantly surprised recently to find out that backyard chickens are America's third most popular pet after dogs and cats. And I'm not sure which one is number one. Do you know?
No, I'm sure it's a dog.
I'm sure it's cats.
It only makes sense, of course.
So what I love to do, and I know Matt does too, is make sure that people are successful with backyard chickens. A lot of times they get out of the habit because maybe they get killed or they get sick or it's too difficult, it's too time consuming. None of that is necessary. With the right setup, it can be so easy. And as we know, there's a connection with nature. That's one of the benefits, just rolling through the slide. a lot of people are surprised at how personable chickens are. Like they actually have a personality. You can get to know them. You can name them. They're always different, just like people. One could be friendly. One can be aloof. One could be shy. One can be obnoxious. One can be annoying. One can be loud. One can be quiet. So you're probably thinking of all those people.
Oh yeah.
So it is really a fun thing to get to know your chickens, and people are surprised. They're not just egg laying machines. They really are pets that have personalities.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to add to that too, I'm not sure if it's on the slides, I haven't seen it yet, is how therapeutic they can be. Because when you mention surprising,
right. Yes,
a lot of people are most surprised at how therapeutic they can be when they come home and just sit there with their wine or beer or whatever you're drinking, afternoon coffee, and how much it can be, how relaxing it can be seeing your chickens out scratching in the yard.
Yeah, and then we have talked about the reluctant spouse phenomenon, and that is that not everybody is really on board with chickens sometimes, but you go along with it. But the reluctant spouse usually comes around.
They end up being the biggest advocate in the family for the chickens, believe it or not. So if you're out there dealing with that, trust me, there is hope. We deal with it every time. We have saved a lot of marriages.
Yes. Also, I wanted to touch on the fact that unlike dogs and cats, there are no vet bills, no medications that are needed. These are really resistant natural animals that really go well with the natural landscape, and they have great immune systems, and they have a lot of great instincts, which are really fun habits and instincts, personalities. They have a lot of instincts that are fun to observe, like millions of years of evolving into what they are today. And they're kept, there's more chickens than people on this planet, and they're kept on every continent. So it's just such a fun hobby. The next one I want you to touch on.
Yeah, my personal favorites. I was a bug guy for a long time. Biological pest control. One of the benefits about having chickens on your property, and this, even if you're in a city, you got a quarter acre, you're out in the country, chickens are always working. They're going around working for free, if you will, or you could say they're on the payroll. And not only are they going to be fertilizing the area that they're scratching in, they're eating all those pests, especially like ticks, which we have a lot down here in the Carolinas.
Yeah. I am a big fan of gardening. I know you're just getting into it, but it is so nice to have chickens as a companion to gardening. And there's a slide coming up about that. They really do. And that's a whole nother topic that we could talk about, but the fertilizer, it's definitely a relationship, and I'm going to talk about that some more.
Yeah, chickens go together with gardening like peas and carrots.
Yeah. Okay. And then everybody's favorite, of course, is fresh eggs.
Well, and there's no waste.
Yeah, that's the next slide.
Okay,
so
sorry.
That's 2 slides away. So regarding eggs, a lot of people are surprised that you do not need a rooster to have fresh eggs. Chickens lay eggs about every 26 hours. They are somewhat seasonal. They may stop laying in the winter after their first winter. They may peak in the spring, so a lot of people don't know that either, that they are seasonal. You can expect about 3 to 5 a week. And the eggs really are, people are excited about eggs because they're so versatile, so healthy. And then, of course, we've got, a lot of people now that are interested in just having a reliable food source, just in case the store runs out of eggs or something even worse happens.
Or the price went through the roof.
Yeah. So, and then there's our favorite, my pet makes me breakfast. That just makes sense. So this is what I was going to touch on again, just really quick, that chickens, they are nature's recycler. And they do such a good job at it. You can give chickens almost all of your kitchen scraps, your leftovers, even crushed eggshells for calcium. They'll eat your weeds and your pesticide-free grass clippings. They'll eat your bugs from your yard, and they turn all of that into either an egg or fertilizer or both, really. And you can use all of it. So what we're doing is we're just taking all of our waste, running it through the chicken, and creating a wealth of fertilizer, eggs, food, and that fertilizer can go to your garden and grow even more food. So
Yeah, I would have to say that's another surprise that a lot of people don't realize how much we waste until we have chickens, and we have a chicken bucket on the table or in the kitchen, whatever, and you're throwing your scraps in there. And a lot of people are also surprised when we say just about everything. One of my favorites that really takes people back is we even give them our coffee grounds.
Yeah.
And you just invented caffeinated eggs.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. The only thing they can't have really is moldy food.
Yep.
Otherwise, trust their instincts. They know what to eat. I mean, if you just have a compost pile, you throw it out there, they're going to pick through it and eat what they want. And
I know a question that's going to come up when it comes to food is it okay to give them a carcass from a rotisserie chicken?
Well, I think it is. I think it is.
That comes up all the time. What happened here?
Okay, we're going to go to the next one. Oh.
Your order is complete. Okay, so that's all for today.
So using my tax.
Yeah, how's that Windows doing?
Oh. Self-employed tax. I think it's my mouse. I'm sorry. When the screen is, it's.
Oh, you're over there.
Yeah. So I'm gonna take that off the display. PC only. There we go. Now my mouse is back. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so this is one of our favorite topics, is making your chicken setup low maintenance. And this is your specialty, being the master coop builder of the world. So we're gonna go into these topics in more detail, but I wanted to give you the rundown of how we're gonna make this hobby easy for you. First of all is having the right coop and having the right setup. We wanna make sure our coop is secure, roomy, has a covered run, and components that encourage natural instincts. I like to have large feeders, large watering systems to make those chores easier. And I have pictured one of our favorites right now is the Coop Works feeder. It's a silo feeder. It's actually made in North Carolina. A lot of us are in North Carolina, and we really like that one. There's less waste and it holds almost 100 pounds of chicken feed. So that one's a great item for keeping tasks at a minimum. You have invented a watering system, and I was happy to test that out for you many years ago. So if you want to touch on that.
Well, of course, yeah. So one of the things that when people are on the fence thinking about getting into chickens, a lot of times we remember the negative things we see on TikTok, maybe we read something online. And what we try to do here, especially at Carolina Coops, is know that there's a solution for everything. So this is the easiest hobby. And there's two things you got to make sure every day that you're doing is one, give them feed. Okay. And you just covered that with the feeder. And there's many different types of feeders out there. Yeah. But you can get ones that are really, really large to help reduce on waste, prevents pests and things like that. But of course, they got to have water. And what we have invented is a water system that keeps the water clean. It keeps it from freezing. But the other thing is, always remember, chickens need to work. Don't ever let them get bored. One of the biggest problems you can have with chickens is if they get bored, that leads into all kinds of other problems. So with our heated water system, or just a regular water system with the water bar, you can see a picture on your screen right now. The chickens come up and peck that horizontal red nipple, and that's how they can drink their water.
Yep. So essentially there's no watering chores ever. If there's a rain gutter, if that rain barrel is fed with water from rain, there are no watering chores. So with the feeder, with the watering system, with the right setup, we're going to touch on deep litter bedding. Deep litter was a game changer for us, for your product.
Big surprise, yeah.
For really chicken keeping in general, it has really exploded. So we're going to talk about that. With deep litter bedding, you don't need to clean out your chicken coop for a year or more. So that's pretty cool. You can have automatic doors for free ranging, so you don't have to go out there to open a door, close a door. That can be time consuming. And then of course, just having healthy chickens keeps things low maintenance as well. We want to make sure they have enough space, that you're practicing reasonable biosecurity, not bringing in sick chickens, not going to go visiting sick chickens and keeping your shoes on, bringing them home. And then of course, keeping your chickens healthy by having plenty of fresh food, greens, kitchen scraps. Will keep them healthy as well. We want them to have a very natural life. Oops, I'm going back too far there. So, coop components. We're going to talk about what goes into the right setup when it comes to your chicken coop. So overall, we want to make sure that it's secure, it's sized right, it has the right ventilation and access. By ventilation and access, I mean, by this picture, you've got windows. We've got windows on all 4 sides on this chicken coop. We've got human door access. We've got chicken access for the chickens to go in. The chicken coop is the 1 unit. The hen house specifically is the more closed, elevated unit where the chickens live. So we want to have in there, like the picture shows, we want to have a perch, bedding, their little chicken door, and of course, they have a egg hutch. We like the egg hutches to have a drop-down door. It's better for access. It's better for the chickens. They're not startled with the door that opens from the top. That tends to be a better design and overall better. So you're also for leaking water.
You're going to go into more details with all that? Okay, good. I'm chomping at the bit.
Okay.
I'm chomping at the bit here.
You want to talk about egg hutches?
Okay, well, egg boxes. So, I mean, this is the magical area of a chicken coop, if you will. This is
where the eggs are.
Yes, this is the first spot, especially if you have children. That's the first place they go running to. And that's where you get the full return of your investment and the time you spent with your chickens is going to the egg boxes. And a good egg hutch or an egg box can make or break the hobby overall. So just going down the list, preferred side opening versus top opening. One of the things I hope we talk a lot about is we really want to educate everyone on the do's and don'ts, but real quick, why? You're going to see if you're out shopping for a chicken coop or if you're thinking about building your own, one of the most common ways to get access to the eggs inside the nest box is by lifting the roof up on top of the egg hutch. And that's actually, in my opinion, a huge no-no. If you're building one or shopping, make sure that the door drops down. The biggest reason for that is chickens are very aware of aerial predators. And if you lift that, speaking of chickens, we actually have one in the studio, believe it or not. If you lift up that roof, you can startle them. They're very aware of aerial predators versus having that drop down door. If there's one in there laying an egg, you want to always keep stress down. You're not going to stress her out by opening up a drop down door. My other favorite part about the drop down door on the egg hutch is allows access for anyone, whether they're a child, maybe a child in a wheelchair, anyone in a wheelchair, or someone that might be 7 foot tall. Okay, yeah, so Kristen mentions, we also offer in all of our egg hutches removable dividers. Again, I think that's a must because you can get a lot of drama. And one of the myths is that people believe you have to have 1 nest box for every chicken. That is not true at all. The rule of thumb is 4 to 6 per nest box, 4 to 6 hens per nest box. But a lot of times you can get 8, maybe sometimes 12 chickens sharing 1 nest box, but then there's that drama. And again, you've got to keep stress down. So what we do is we like to remove a divider and make just a bigger nest box. And that way they can share that together without any fighting. Always keeping it on the shady side. So always remember, one of the biggest things that can stress chickens is heat. A lot of people think it's the cold. It's not the cold. A lot of them actually prefer the cold. However, if you can keep your egg hutch, your egg box on the shady side to keep it cooler, that is ideal. When it comes to the nesting material, as Kristen will always say, encourage their instincts. And a mistake that people make is they use pine shavings, they use sand, they use carpet. They use things that the chickens can't really use to make that perfect nest. They want to go in there and have this long stringy material. And actually, I don't know if we have any around here, but
I took it all.
Oh, of course you did.
Oh, and I have some in the car.
To build that nest. Okay, so it's really just that simple. Do not let do not let me sleep in egg boxes. Okay, yeah, you always got to make sure you're encouraging their instincts. To give you another example, if you got a chicken laying in a nest box, that could cause a lot of problems. One of the ways to prevent that is make sure when you're building your chicken coop that you keep your roost bar above everything else, because that's where the chicken wants to go to roost at night. A lot of people make the mistake of keeping the roost bar lower than the entry into the egg hutch, and therefore the chicken goes into the egg hutch and sleeps in there.
Yeah, we don't want that, because then you get poop on your eggs. So this is a great graphic that Ingrid made here, and I just love to share this a lot. This is just a great illustration of how much space you might need. We do like the 1 foot rule, which is allow a 1 foot for every hen or chicken on the roost bar. So if you have a 6 foot roost bar, that's 6 chickens. It just makes things nice and roomy for them. And
I think of it as sleeping in a king size bed. However, exactly. A lot of people will tell you can go down to 8 inches. You can get away with it. But as this says, size does matter. One of the biggest mistakes you can make with owning backyard chickens is having too small of a chicken coop.
Right. So this shows that there's room for 12 chickens in the hen house. But there's not really room for 12 chickens in the run because they do need a lot of ground space. That's where they spend all their day. They only go up in the hen house to sleep or lay an egg. So we want to make sure they have about 10 square feet per chicken in the run, or if you can free range, that's even easier because it opens up more area. So for instance, in this example, you can get away with having 12 in the hen house if you open up some opportunity for free ranging. But if they're enclosed, you want to go with about 7.
Yep, 10 square feet per hen is the bare minimum. The bigger the run, the better.
Yeah. And I think we just touched on this. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew it's 8 to 12 inches on the roost bar, 4 to 6 hens per nesting box, and 10 square feet. So just to make sure everybody understood that. And as far as components go, I did want to touch on this. There's a reason why metal roofing really works well with chicken coops. It's well ventilated. It reflects heat, which, like we said, heat is a very big stressor on chickens. It's very long lasting. And it's an opportunity to keep everything dry if you have the metal roof over the entire run. That is why we recommend that as well. And as far as the wire goes, oh, you have some wire.
I just happen to have some because we just got a couple containers in.
Yeah. And this is the gold standard for wire.
Yes. Okay? If you are building your chicken coop, do not make the mistake of going to your local box store. Of course, you can order it online and buying chicken wire. 2 reasons. One, it's not going to give you the tensile strength that you really need to make sure predators cannot get into the coop. But also with the opening roughly being 1 inch by 1 1/4 inch, one of the things that can happen is a raccoon can reach in. And this is going to sound gruesome, but I apologize, but it can happen. With that large opening, raccoons can reach in, grab their head, and rip their heads off. So just kind of give you an example.
That's what we don't want to happen.
That's what we don't want to have happen. To my opinion, the must is a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch hardware cloth, which is what I'm showing right now, or you can see it on your screen. I also want to make sure I prefer to have it black PVC coated, and that is because that prevents the wire from rusting. But more importantly, if you think about the black PVC coating on the hardware cloth, that's just like the screen on your windows. It absorbs the light and allows it to be see-through.
All right, now we wanted to touch on this. This has really been a hot issue in chicken keeping. If you already have chickens, this is something that you can do right now. Maybe you're already doing it. Maybe you've tried it and it didn't work. So we're here for any questions or troubleshooting. We actually spend a lot of time on deep litter. We test materials, we field calls, we do all sorts of educational stuff. Deep litter, just in a nutshell, was discovered really as a practice after World War II, when men went to war, women were left at home, and they no longer cleaned out chicken coops because they just frankly didn't have enough time. So what was discovered through some scientific research was you didn't really need to clean out the chicken coop, which is, that's wonderful. It was not only easier, but it was healthier for the chickens. It is actually healthier to have those microbes break down the droppings in the dry material. It really does work. I know I told you about it, and I was using pine shavings. It was still working, but you came to me and said, hey, I've got something new. I've got industrial hemp. And I said, nah, I don't think it'll work. But here we are. And industrial hemp really is the gold standard again for
the deep litter system.
For deep litter.
So real quick, again, I don't know if you have another slide, but can you explain what, in a little bit more depth, the deep litter system?
So the deep litter system is having enough dry material. We love industrial hemp. It really acts as a desiccant. It pulls the moisture out of the chicken droppings, therefore eliminating the ammonia smell. So that's the first phase, and then after that, it acts it's really composting in place. So all those beneficial microbes are really composting the hydrogen, the carbon and nitrogen.
So all you're doing is you're adding layers.
Yeah.
You're covering up the nitrogen, the chicken poop, with carbon. Again, industrial hemp, but you can use pine shavings. You can use many other types of carbon, but what you're doing is you're building layers. And the thing is, I cannot emphasize enough, this allows you to not have to clean out your hen house once a week, which is the rule of thumb.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if many people do that. However, with the deep litter system, you can go well over a year without having to clean it out. So that saves you a tremendous amount of time, but also it's actually healthier for the chickens.
And it doesn't smell, and there's no flies. We have one at a 5-star restaurant right outside, and there's no flies.
Yeah. I know a lot of people, it's hard to believe, trust us, it actually smells less even when the ammonia does start to build up, and that's a clue when to add your carbon.
Just add more or
versus,
stir it.
Yes. Yeah, I like to add.
You can turn it over.
Stirrer, right.
No, and it just once a month, you can turn it over.
It works incredibly well.
All right, so we also want to talk about breeds, chicken breeds, like how to get started, or if you want to add to your flock. There are over 120 breeds, and you can get them as chicks or full grown. We don't recommend full grown hens because you just really don't know if they have any illness or how old they are really after a certain point. It's very hard to tell. So that's why we like to start with chicks. You can get chicks from your local farm store, a reseller, hatchery, flock swaps.
Yeah, you can buy them online. A lot of people don't realize that. One of the nice things about buying baby chicks online, you get to really hand pick exactly what you want as long as the timing's right.
Right, and it might be, here we go. So yeah, I just wanted to give you an example. This is a hatchery website where you can just pick out your chicken, your chicks. They mail them through the mail and you have them. And we had a chicks shortage this year, and we had one in 2020 during COVID, but it seems to be easing out now that chick season, starting in February, March, we're past chick season, so I'm seeing a lot of availability now. And what we didn't used to have is all these local resellers, which is really nice, and the farm stores. The farm stores sometimes have an extended season from February to sometimes Thanksgiving, where they're selling baby chicks. So you can go to the farm store and just pick up a few, or look at their schedule, call ahead, and be able to.
The other thing I like about poultry websites or hatchery websites is there's a lot of good information. I wouldn't get hung up on everything they say, because I know a lot of people say like the Rhode Island Red's the nicest chicken, but some of the meanest chickens I've had are Rhode Island Reds.
Right.
But it is a great place to get some good information. Also, I always recommend get their catalog. It's great reading material.
Great. Yes, absolutely. And another thing we could do is, brooding chicks. So if you get chicks, you may want to, you need to raise them until they're 5 to 7 weeks old. There's lots of methods to do that. You could use your hen house like the picture. You can brood them right there. You can use a plastic bin. You can use one of those galvanized water troughs from the farm store, or you might even want to consider using a broody hen. But no matter what method you use, please use this nipple water that I've pictured. And a great place to get that is Premier One. They have great poultry supplies.
And they're not paying us to say that.
No, I love that thing. And this brooding plate too is awesome. That's a recent invention. So your chickens, instead of using a heat lamp, which has a fire risk, and it's also heats up the entire room, this mimics a hen.
Exactly. So when you're brooding baby chicks, you're either going to have the mama hen do it, or you have to be the mama hen. And that's all you got to ever remember. And one of the nice things about the picture that's upper right with the water on it, that's mimicking mama hen. Those baby chicks are going to go underneath that black square, which is a heat plate. And it's also extremely safe compared to a heat lamp, like Kristen was saying.
Yeah. And I did see that I had one thing out of place, and that was the predator protection. Just to touch on this, you do need to protect your chickens from predators. We talked about having the right components for a chicken coop, but one of the best things that you can do, not only having the right size wire, and having all of your, no openings that a predator could get into. You might want to secure the latches, or this is definitely my favorite, is this predator apron, which Matt, of course, is seen here installing, but it's really just a wire mesh that you get from Lowe's in the garden center. And if you attach it on the bottom of the chicken coop, lay it flat, predators go up to the chicken coop to dig, and they can't get anywhere. It's great because there's no digging for you. You don't have to dig a trench or, do a lot of labor. It's really that easy, just to make sure. And I think we are about done. I did want to mention you can get an automatic door for free ranging, and I think that is the end. There's some.
Yeah, that is a great, quick, a lot of precise bullet points.
Yeah, because we want to be able to. This is a lunch and learn, so.
Ooh, okay.
We want to make sure that people are.
I love questions.
Yeah, I think there'll be some questions.
And we've got some.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is great. We can really hear your expertise and passion for chickens throughout this presentation. We've got some questions in the chat, so I'll kind of feed those to you all first, and then after that, folks can keep adding more questions to the chat or absolutely unmute and ask a question. So the first one we have here is about the watering system. Do you have plans for the rain barrel watering system? This participant is wondering how she can build one.
We don't. I do have a lot of people that copy it, and we have a lot of videos on our YouTube channel that you can use as a resource on making your own, and a lot of great advice on what to consider when making your own. And of course, just a quick plug for people that are really interested in learning more. Kristen and I have a show every Friday, noon Eastern, and we talk a lot about the waterer and more details about that.
Yeah, basically you're using a rain barrel and a PVC pipe with the horizontal nipples to, it's gravity fed, and in order to get the heated component, because if it freezes at night, you need to have circulating water and de-iced water. Mm-hmm. So that's the basic concept. And this is my pet.
Yay. We will link to and provide the information about the YouTube channel in the follow-up email. We'll send that along with, someone was asking if the slides would be sent out after, and I think, Kristen, is that okay with you if we share this slide in the follow-up email?
Slides.
Yeah. All right. Next question. What are your thoughts on Sweet PDZ horse stall repair?
This is are you familiar with that? It's like the Healthy Straw, but I'm not sure what it is. I think that is a great product to use for chickens, especially if you have in your run area. It could work for deep litter. We've just found that by far hemp just seems to be the best product for
the price, for your time, everything. Yeah.
Yeah, but that product is good.
Never heard anything bad about it.
Yeah.
Okay, and more on the deep litter system. Do you periodically add more hemp on top?
Yes, you can add more on top or turn it over. If there's hemp on the bottom that hasn't been used, I'll turn it over. But yeah, you're really just wanting to make sure that you have the droppings covered, and you don't have to do it all the time. I mean, you can do it based on smell, or if you see flies, turn it over, add more, it'll work.
Yeah, all you got to remember is the deep litter system, when you put your carbon in there, that's the diaper. And where people make the mistake is if they have too small of a diaper on too big of a baby. What I mean is your chicken to coop ratio is so important. If you get that out of whack, you will potentially have problems. If you go online and read about the deep litter, when people say it didn't work for them, it's because they had too many chickens in too small of an area. There actually is a lot of science, using Our Coops as an example, why they're spaced the way they are, and a lot of it has to do with so that the deep litter system can be a set it and forget it.
Yeah.
And you just add another layer of carbon based on smell.
Yeah, I've gone 4 years, and the bottom layer is really dirt.
Yeah.
And then I ended up just putting the bottom layer on my garden after 4 years. So it actually doesn't even fill up because it keeps breaking down. And the longer you go, actually, the easier it is because of composting.
Yep.
And I like to tell people to go ahead and throw in a shovel full of dirt to kickstart it. I mean, just like you would a compost pile, because that's what we're doing.
Perfect. All right, next question is about the eggs. It's a three-parter. How do you keep fresh eggs, and for how long? Is there a time frame for when you should take them from the nest box?
Mm.
How long do you wait? What was the first question?
Okay, so when you have your eggs,
you were listening.
Yeah. One of the benefits to having a backyard flock and they're producing your own eggs is that you don't have to refrigerate the eggs. One of the things we've seen in this industry over the past 15 years we've been doing it is I've realized how far behind the times we are and how different it's really meant to be when it comes to handling your eggs. What I mean by that is we here, especially in the States, we're very used to going into the store and buying perfect looking food, but we always have to, in this case, refrigerate it like we do our eggs. And I always thought that's what you're supposed to do or they're gonna go bad. And that is actually not true at all. When you can go out to your own coop and you have freshly laid eggs, there is what's called a bloom on the outside of that egg. And that is meant to be there to protect your egg so bacteria can't get into it. One of the things that you don't want to do is actually refrigerate your eggs.
Or wash them.
Or wash them because you're going to remove that bloom. But if you ever get into a situation where you collect your eggs and you do have to wash them, then you're removing that bloom. That is when you do want to refrigerate them. A question that does come up a lot is, okay, Matt, I got these perfect looking eggs that are fresh out of the nest box and I'm going to put them in an egg basket and show it off like a fruit basket on my dining room table. How long can they stay on that table before they go bad? And we have seen eggs last
2 months,
easily. I think the standard answer is supposed to be no more than maybe 30 days. Here, you can handle that.
All right, I got it.
Yeah, that's how that should look.
Yeah, that is actually.
So they can actually have a very long shelf life.
Oh, and you can get one of these things. This is a skelter, so it keeps them, you add them to the top and they come out the bottom. So you make sure that you're using the oldest ones first. And something like that would work.
And speaking of eggs, another thing that happens when people get into the hobby for a little bit, you first pick out your chickens on the ones that you think are most beautiful. Then you start falling in love with how many different colored eggs there are out there.
Yeah.
There's not just white and brown. There's green, there's blue, there's speckled eggs, and then of course there's eggs of all kinds of different sizes. So what happens is when I mentioned that fruit basket, I know for me it's a lot of fun to show off the dark chocolate colored eggs from like a French copper Marron, and it's just beautiful and makes for a great conversation piece.
Wonderful. So I think what I got out of that is eggs, when they're out, they can last, as long as you don't tamper with them too much, for at least 2 months. Is it a second part of that question? I'm not sure if there is a clear answer on, but is there a time frame from when you should take them out of the nest box, or can you leave them in there for a while?
It's a good practice to collect. I like to collect at sunset because they're done laying. Once the sun sets, they're done. So I like to collect at night. If I skip a day or two, it's fine. If you have too many eggs building up over time, you run the risk of one breaking and messing, like just making a mess in there. So that's why we typically like to collect eggs every day.
Yeah, it's ideal to collect it every 24 hours because if you do have one that accidentally breaks, chickens are creatures of habit, and you want to prevent a habit called egg eating, and they may not discover egg eating until one breaks, and all of a sudden like, oh wow, that's in there, that is really yummy, and then all of a sudden you have an egg eater on your hands. Another thing when it comes to egg collection, because a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, I can't have chickens, I'm going to travel for a week. Call up your neighbor, and one of the best ways to reward that neighbor is giving them those eggs.
Oh yeah, I don't have any trouble going on vacation because all my neighbors have to do is come and collect eggs.
And another thing you can do, especially if you got kids, it's a lot of fun. You know, right here, these eggs, it's called water glassing, a whole nother story. It's a great way to preserve eggs for over a year.
If you get too many in the spring and you don't get any in the winter, you can preserve them.
And if they don't float in the water, they're still good. When they start to float in the water, that's when they're going bad.
Nice.
Keeping it short and sweet. Not
Good job.
bad. Thanks.
Right, we've got a couple more. So this one is from somebody who does not have fences in their backyard and isn't sure if the chickens would wander off. So when they're free ranging, are they pretty good about staying close to the coop?
They are. They know where home is. They always come home at night before sunset. And if there's plenty of food in the immediate area, they shouldn't wander off. I mean, if you have a barren land with no grass, no bugs, you know, they might wander off to try to find more food, because foraging is something that they do best. And that's one of the great things about them, is they're out searching for food all day long, and they're eating things that we don't mind them eating, like bugs and weeds. So if they have plenty of that, they won't go far.
But they always come back to roost as
Yep.
long as they've learned that coop is home.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Next question, how much layer feed versus other stuff do you recommend for a healthy diet?
Well, we don't have to overthink that too much, because you should have layer feed available to them all the time. They will never overeat, unlike other animals. So just let them have access to that. And then whatever you have from your house, I do recommend that they always have access to greens, even in the winter. So whatever you have to present to them from the kitchen as well, that would be great. Just make sure that they're able to eat that in one day, or if it's in a compost pile, cover it up. Because if there's kitchen waste out there, you could be attracting flies. But if they're eating what you're presenting, it all works out. You don't have to. And if you have a period of time where you're not giving them something, they're fine. They'll find something else. So a lot of this is not really.
Don't overthink it.
yeah.
The biggest mistake people make is overthink it. But listen to the basic fundamentals that we just described. You will be set up for success, but just do not overthink it.
All right, here's one for you. This woman has a chicken who is losing feathers on her neck, and she is wondering if you can answer this question. Are the other chickens pulling the feathers out of that chicken's neck?
Just on the neck.
And this, the thought process is we're thinking, is she molting? It's not the right time of year for molting, and you would see a progression of molting, and it doesn't start with the neck. It sounds like some other chickens are pulling her feathers out, and they do that when they're bored, typically, or they're overcrowded. But it could happen randomly without any, especially if you have just another mean chicken, because like I said, they have their own personalities, and one could be mean, and that just happens.
And chickens are known to eat feathers if they're low on protein.
Yeah, that could be the case as well, low on protein. But typically it is if there's an issue with feather loss, look at the most beautiful chicken as the culprit, because no one's picking her feathers off.
Right.
So
chickens, they're territorial. They can be mean. There is a pecking order. You got to understand that. You got to let chickens be chickens, but you can come across one that's in charge, and you typically, when you do run into problems like that, you got to give them some more space.
Or it's a newcomer and she's getting picked up.
Oh God, yeah, that's a whole nother story. Newcomers. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh boy. All right, my favorite quote of the day so far is "Let chickens be chickens." All right, next question, predator question. Do you have any suggestions for hawk deterrents for free-ranging chickens?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we just did a video on this. I love to free range, and I free range my chickens all the time. There's a risk to that, and it's all about mitigating the risk. I rarely lose a chicken to a hawk, and it's one of those personal decisions, and I don't want to get too much into that. But if you have chosen to free range, or you're going to do it, let's mitigate the risk. Okay, so number one, you might want to limit the time you might want to limit them to the hour or two before sunset, because they'll always go in at sunset. So that's one way to limit your risk. Also, make sure that you have plenty of places for them to hide. This is, again, where we rely on their instincts. They have such great instincts. They're going to dive under whatever they can. They're going to be watching for hawks, listening for hawks. They're very aware of these aerial predators, so they know what to do. So, you know, mine dive under the deck. They dive under the porch. They come
to work.
They come to work with me. They really like dense shrubs and low branches to kind of feel really safe. Vines are really good.
Chickens are a woodland animal. A lot of people forget that. They are a woodland animal. They feel safest in the woods. And yeah, just give them that ability to escape. One of the things you don't want to do if you're free ranging is clip their wings. That makes it harder for them to get away. And of course, there are mechanical things. We've done jobs where we call them, you know, aviaries, where you can install bird netting. You can install what are called guide wires, where you can run like fishing line, make a big giant spider web to reduce the chances of hawks coming in. Hawks do not like soaring in with their wings out and hitting those lines.
And there's two other things we want to touch on: the livestock guard dog, or any dog. That doesn't eat chickens or kill chickens is a great benefit. Hawks tend to know where dogs live, even if it's an indoor dog. That definitely reduces your risk. Also, a lot of people have an interest right now in crows, because crows are territorial and they do not like hawks. So if you have crows on your property,
it's a good thing.
They will chase off the hawks.
And you got guardian geese.
And they bring you presents, apparently.
Yes, they do. So does Bigfoot. And guardian geese, that's a popular one.
Guardian geese too. So it's all about mitigating risk, and I believe it's absolutely worth it.
Oh yeah.
Great. More species questions. Are raccoons territorial? Somebody had one chew through the wire and kill their flock. That raccoon will no longer be an issue, but we are concerned about it happening again with another raccoon.
About the wire, if they get through the wire, a lot of times it's not the actual wire that they got through, it's how the wire was attached.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and because I've used interior staples to attach the wire, and 2 years later I go out and the wire is almost like hanging off. They've corroded. So make sure those are stainless steel or exterior, because that connection point will fail before the wire itself.
Yeah, that's
so
critical.
That's just something to check if you have chickens. Raccoons are everywhere. Predators are everywhere. It doesn't matter if you're in North Carolina or listening in globally from somewhere else. The predator species and the pressure may differ from geographical region to region, but they are everywhere, and predators are opportunistic. We just want them to just travel on through. That's all they're going to do. They're looking for food. They're sometimes looking for a mate, and they're trying not to die. So that's all a predator, all these animals are thinking about. So now that raccoon has gone in and it's no longer a problem, if it was still out there, we would expect it to come back the next night. And that's when, if you have a death, then you can probably just wait or put a camera out, find out what it is, because they're going to come back the next night. As far as keeping them away, I don't remember exact question, but keeping them away, you want to make sure that they don't have a food source. So it's not your chickens. Bird feeders, outdoor cat food, garbage cans. If these wild animals don't have access to these things, they will move on.
Yeah, it's all about prevention.
Right.
And keep in mind, your coop is on guard every single night. But predators, I kind of like to think of it as, I'm not going to say they're lazy, but they're opportunistic. Yeah. Make it difficult for them and they will move on.
Right.
Okay. How do chickens get along with squirrels and rabbits?
Squirrels is an odd one.
Yeah, that has me a little stumped. I have deer in my yard with chickens. They kind of ignore each other. I've seen a squirrel trample through trample. I'm not sure what they do. And the chickens ignore those squirrels. I think
rabbits become very popular.
Wild. I mean, there's.
Oh yeah, we're talking about pet.
Yeah, there's wild rabbits, there's meat rabbits, and there's pet rabbits. And I've seen we've gotten a lot of people that want rabbits in their chicken coop, or in their chicken run, and that's certainly possible as well. I mean, they don't like each other, they tolerate each other, or ignore each other.
The thing about rabbits, though, they're going to chew a lot, so you got to be mindful of that.
All right.
If you have them in the coop.
We still have a few more questions to get through. It seems like we keep getting more. Just to be respectful of your time, we're going to wrap up at 1, but I think we can get a few more of these in. This participant is asking if you have a recommended starter pack size for beginners. So I guess the bare minimum to get her started.
Well, I see the start in chicken coops like some people might see a baby shower. Like, I get so excited. They have no idea what's in store for them. I get so excited. And one of my favorite things is getting people set up with starter flocks. So we've done a whole show on a starter flock, I think. What we really like is for the typical family, I think 6 to 8 is a great starting point, and mix it up. That is absolutely 100% my recommendation. Mix up the feather pattern, egg color. Make sure they're different so you can name them, so you can get to know them. Even the size, if you have like a bantam, which is a small chicken with a regular sized chickens, that starter flock that you start with, they will never forget their sisters. Like, they're going to be raised as a family, as a flock, and it doesn't matter if you have them for 4 years or you get a whole bunch of other chickens. That starter flock will never forget who their family is, who their flock is, and they create a bond no matter what different breeds they are, sizes they are, whatever. They grow up together, they will always stay together.
Stay away from silkies.
That's a personal opinion.
Stay away from silkies.
Okay, so speaking of these close-knit flocks, the next question is, what's the best practice for adding new chicks to an existing flock?
Yeah, we could talk for an hour about that. And there's a blog post on our website about that. I was just reading. The easiest thing to do if you have existing chickens is wait till one of them goes broody, and that's the maternal instinct where they want to raise their young. If you have a broody hen, bring in either fertilized eggs or wait 3 weeks with fake eggs and bring in chicks from the farm store or wherever you're going to get them from, and have her raise those babies, because then those babies inherit her place in the pecking order, and you don't have to brood any more chicks in the house. You don't have to keep them separate until they're full size. That's by far the easiest, but we're waiting on that chicken, that hen, to tell us when she's ready to raise babies. So the alternative to that is you raise your chicks from babies to approximately teenagers and try to integrate them. And the integration process will go much easier if you have a lot of space. That you could do that very easily if you free range, or if they're contained, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. Some people will make that adjustment slowly with having maybe a smaller cage with the newcomers so they can get to know each other without getting injured. And also key in the integration process is having 2 feeding and watering stations to make sure that they aren't territorial.
Yeah, you want to make sure that they're the same size, roughly the same size, but giving them space will minimize the fighting. If you use the broody hen, which is ideal, there is no fighting. It's just, and it's so much fun doing it that way.
Awesome. Well, that seems to be it for the chat questions. We are going to put our quick evaluation link in the chat box. If you have time to answer 3 questions, please do that. But we also do have a few minutes left. If anyone wants to unmute and ask a question or add anything else while you're thinking on this for a minute, I just want to thank Kristen and Matt. I have learned so much about chickens. This is just a really interesting topic to me. I wish I didn't have a dog who I suspected would not make a great chicken guard dog. I would love to get involved, but you're getting my fire going a little bit for wanting a chicken coop again. So thank you so much for being here.
I ask about the chicken feed, like the layer feed's getting kind of expensive, and you mentioned we do give our chicken a lot of, you know, leftover food and vegetables and stuff, but like how much layer feed should they really have in their diet?
If you're trying to minimize the expense of feed, I really don't know the percentage. It's really about having enough protein. For instance, so you can raise black soldier fly this time of year, and that's a great protein, and that's just natural in North Carolina. That's a way to get a lot of protein or protein and fat into the chicken's diet. And you can also get vitamin and mineral packs. If you're going to, you can almost eliminate the chicken feed altogether if you have the right protein. You know, they need quite a bit of protein for those eggs. Protein, fat, the vitamins and minerals from the pack, and then food from your home, and then free ranging. You really don't need the chicken feed, or you can reduce that. We just want to be careful that they have the right vitamins and minerals and the right protein.
Right, and you'll know by the feathers, you'll know by the egg quality when you're cracking the shell, if it's thin or thick. There are people that
an oyster shell, you can get that, or feed them back their shells if they're crushed up and don't look like eggs.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about layer mash and layer feed, it's really for convenience.
Yeah.
Because the science is done, the ratio's there, but there are people that raise their chickens without any layer feed.
Mm-hmm.
Just giving them your scraps, giving them access to a compost, and again, free ranging.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's, if you've got protein coming from your kitchen, I mean, they love it.
Yeah, cool, thanks.
How
Thank
about
you.
meals? This just came in.
Mealworms, absolutely. Black soldier fly larvae, mealworms are easy to raise. Yes,
And they love
absolutely.
'em.
All right. Well, it looks like that is it. Thanks again so much for being here. This was just a really fun presentation. And it looks like you've got lots of interest. So absolutely, I'll get those exact links for, I think we've had a few people ask, can we please have the links for their YouTube and all that good stuff. Is it at Carolina Coops Videos, or is it the Chicken Live Show? At Carolina Coops Videos is the
If you go to carolinacoops.com, it's in the upper right hand corner. I think that's the easiest way to look at the previous episodes. We had one on coop placement, one on the 10 biggest myths that touched on a bunch of stuff here.
We are big on educating the customer about chickens, and once you really learn about chickens, you realize what we do about why we do what we do with coops. So there's so much information going right to our website, videos, the blogs.
Right,
and of course,
right.
video chicken live, people love that because that's when we get into more details, and it's live and people can ask their question just like here, or they can call in for an interview. And of course, we run the green screen and they get to see a lot of slides. And of course, we have guests on. We just had a rep from, an employee from North Carolina State that specializes in urban wildlife.
That was
It's a
really
lot of
interesting.
fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. Well, I just dropped that in the chat, and I will put that along with the slides in the follow-up email for everyone. So
Okay.
Thanks everybody for attending. Thank you, Kristen and Matt, for being here. We really all enjoyed it. Have a great day.
It was
Thank
fun.
you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.